The arsenic glittered like morning frost on the windowsill, its crystalline beauty belying its lethal nature. Marie Lafarge watched it catch the pale winter light, her delicate fingers hovering over the powder as if drawn by some magnetic force. In her mind, it sparkled with the promise of freedom, freedom from a marriage that had become her prison, freedom from the provincial life that suffocated her Parisian sensibilities. Born Marie Fortunée Capelle in 1816 to a family of fading aristocratic connections, Marie's early life was marked by loss and displacement. The death of her father when she was 12 cast a long shadow over her formative years, leaving her with an inheritance of melancholy and a desperate need for security that would later prove tragically ironic. Raised in the sophisticated salons of Paris, she developed a taste for literature, romance, and the finer things in life, tastes that would later seem grotesquely out of place in the rural province of Corrèze. The marriage that would lead to her infamy began, as many tragedies do, with hope and deception. In 1839, at the age of 23, Marie agreed to an arranged marriage with Charles Lafarge, who had presented himself as a wealthy ironmaster. The reality that awaited her at the Glandier estate was a crumbling mansion, a failing business, and a husband whose provincial manners and appearance repulsed her refined sensibilities. The romantic fantasies she had nursed since childhood shattered against the harsh stone walls of her new home. "I dreamed of love," she would later write in her memoirs, "and they gave me a tomb." The psychological deterioration that followed was swift and profound. Letters from this period reveal a woman trapped between the gilded cage of her expectations and the rustic reality of her circumstances. Marie's writings oscillated between despair and determination, between self-pity and calculated manipulation. She began ordering arsenic, ostensibly for killing rats in the mansion's extensive cellars. But the rats she sought to eliminate walked on 2 legs, not 4. Her husband's decline began gradually stomach pains, weakness, vomiting. The local doctor, initially puzzled, prescribed various remedies, but Charles Lafarge's condition only worsened. Marie played the role of devoted nurse with theatrical precision, preparing his meals herself, insisting on administering his medicines personally. The parallel between Marie's own feelings of imprisonment and her methodical poisoning of her husband creates a dark symmetry. As she later confessed to her confidant, "Each day in this house feels like swallowing poison myself." In a perverse way, she was sharing her emotional death with her husband's physical one. Charles Lafarge died on January 14, 1840, in excruciating pain. The subsequent investigation revealed not just the arsenic in his system, but a web of lies and manipulations that Marie had woven around herself. She had fabricated romantic correspondences, invented a fictional inheritance, and created an alternate reality in which she was the protagonist of a grand romance rather than the architect of a domestic tragedy. The trial that followed became a sensation that gripped France. It represented more than just a murder case. It became a battlefield for emerging forensic science, class tensions, and gender roles in post-revolutionary France. The new Marsh test for detecting arsenic took center stage, turning chemistry into theater for an enthralled public. Marie, ever the performer, played to the galleries. She appeared in court dressed in black, her pale face framed by dark curls, the very picture of romantic tragedy. But beneath the theatrical exterior, psychological assessments of the time paint a portrait of a woman with a complex relationship to reality. Modern analysts might diagnose her with histrionic personality disorder or mythomania. Her ability to maintain multiple contradictory narratives, victim and perpetrator, loving wife, and calculating murderess suggests a fragmented sense of self that was both her shield and her undoing. The prosecution built their case methodically. They revealed how Marie had purchased arsenic multiple times under various pretexts. They presented letters in which she had detailed her unhappiness in marriage with an alarming lack of restraint. Her defense was both logical and theatrical. She argued that the arsenic was for rats, for making cosmetics, for anything but murder. When confronted with contradictions in her testimony, she would faint dramatically or burst into passionate declarations of innocence. The courtroom became her stage, and she played every role available to a woman of her time: the misunderstood wife, the falsely accused innocent, the victim of circumstance. The jury's verdict was guilty, but the debate over her guilt has never truly ended. She was sentenced to life imprisonment with hard labor. Her sentence later commuted to simple imprisonment. The once refined lady of Paris found herself in a cell at Montpellier, writing her memoirs between prison walls that must have felt familiar after her time at Glandier. Marie Lafarge died in 1852 at the age of 36, still protesting her innocence. In her final years, she had become something of a cause célèbre, receiving visitors and maintaining correspondence with supporters who saw her as a victim of class prejudice or patriarchal justice. Her prison writings reveal a woman still caught between reality and fantasy, still crafting narratives that painted her life in romantic hues rather than arsenic-tinged shadows. The case left an indelible mark on French society, influencing literature, law, and forensic science. It represented a perfect storm of social anxieties: fear of female agency, distrust of the newly mobile class system, and anxiety about the role of science in justice. Marie Lafarge became a symbol of female rebellion, of criminal sophistication, of the dangers of romantic fantasy colliding with brutal reality. Psychological analysis of the case continues to fascinate scholars. Was Marie Lafarge a calculating murderer who used society's expectations of female hysteria as a shield? Or was she herself a victim of those expectations, driven to extremes by a society that offered women few options for escape from unbearable situations? The answer perhaps lies somewhere in the gray area between victim and villain, in the space where desperation meets determination. The physical evidence of her crime has long since crumbled to dust, like the arsenic-laced cakes she fed to her husband. But the psychological implications of her case continue to resonate. In an era of true crime obsession and feminist re-examination of historical villainesses, Marie Lafarge's story raises uncomfortable questions about agency, guilt, and the stories we tell ourselves to justify our actions. Her legacy lives on in French legal history, in feminist discourse, and in the ongoing fascination with women who kill. The Lafarge case marked a turning point in forensic science and criminal psychology, forcing society to confront the possibility that murder could wear a gentle face and speak in cultured tones. In her final letter, written days before her death, Marie Lafarge wrote, "Truth is but a word, and words are but shadows we cast upon the wall of existence." It was perhaps her most honest statement, an admission that in the theater of her life, she had become unable to distinguish between the shadows and the light, between the poison she administered and the poison she felt in her soul. Today, the Glandier mansion still stands, its stones holding the echoes of a tragedy that was both intensely personal and broadly social. Visitors report a strange glittering in the dust motes when sunlight strikes the windowsills, like arsenic catching the light. like truth fragmenting into 1,000 deadly particles. In the end, Marie Lafarge took her final truth to the grave, leaving behind a legacy of questions that continue to haunt the intersection of justice, gender, and power. Her story serves as a reminder that the most dangerous poisons often come disguised in the most elegant packages, and that sometimes the greatest mystery is not whether someone committed a crime, but how they justified it to themselves. And somewhere in the criminal archives of France, a small packet of arsenic still sits in an evidence box, its crystalline surface dulled by time, but still holding its secrets, much like the woman who wielded it, a glittering darkness, waiting to be understood. Let us know if you enjoyed this video. Also, let us know in the comments what historical figures you'd like us to profile next. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like these.